as part of the talent acquisition team in India. I primarily lead the hiring for all the engineering and R&D organizations for Dell, which means the whole of server, storage, networking, data protection, and other R&D organizations. From a hiring standpoint for India, that's what I do. Carry about 16 years of experience. Did my master's in HR from Bangalore University back in 2004. Started my career with Wipro. Then spent a few years before I took on my journey as an entrepreneur. It was more of a executive search organization which I co-founded. Had offices in UK, US, and India. Ran it for about 7 years. Then decided to get back to corporate. Sold my part of the business to my UK partners, and Dell has been one of my clients, and joined them to head up this particular business unit, and I've been with them for the last 5 years. So that's a brief about what I am and what I'm doing right now. Great. Yeah, can we see the deck, please? Okay. So a couple of things I thought, I would just help you with a few of the areas which I would like to talk about. One is, of course, the current crisis, what we are into, and the impact of it. To get an understanding of how each of these points are going to relate to each other, right? So we would talk about the current crisis. Then it would take us to what exactly do we mean by the new norm or the new normal, followed by the technologies we should be looking at, where the industry would be moving to or expected to move into. And when it comes to our individual survival and thriving in the industry, right? That's something we would be looking at few of the finer aspects, again, both from a technology and the individual capability standpoint. And we will open it up for a Q&A. Next slide, please. Okay, so rather than talking a lot about the current crisis, I thought I'll just put this slide up to give a high-level understanding of how this pandemic has impacted all of us. If you look at this particular data, you would find that right now. Hello. Okay, so I would request maybe others to go on mute. So if you look at this particular graph, it's quite surprising. You would find that way back in Jan of this year, our unemployment rate was a single digit. It's roughly about 6.6, and we continue to maintain that. And before I talk about what really happened from April onwards, for your information, last couple of years, our unemployment rate with the most, I would say, dependable data, that's been about 10 to 11%. But then come April, where the world declared it as a pandemic, and you can see the graph just going up. And towards end of May, it was hovering somewhere between 24-25%. Luckily for thanks to a few other external factors, right now it's still about maybe 11%, but then that point is always debatable. So we would go back to maybe how it was somewhere in April, May. So that's about 24 or 25%, which is very alarming for a country like India, which has about maybe 130,000 people, 130 crores. So this is where we stand because of the current pandemic, and it impacted across the sectors, except for, I would say, maybe one or two, for example, on the healthcare and some of the e-commerce organizations. It impacted almost all the industries, right from a retail to a hospitality to a travel to a manufacturing to a supply chain, almost all of them. So this gives an overview of what the pandemic has created on the Indian economy. At a global level, if you ask me, or if I have to give you the US economy, right? And the example I'm giving US economy is there's a lot of dependency for India as a country on what happens to the US economy. So the long story short, US economy, if you look at it, last 10 years, the number of jobs they created, right, and a couple of millions of jobs they created, they all got washed out in just 2.5 months' time. So that's the speed at which the jobs got eroded across the sectors. So I hope that gives an overview of what the current situation is all about. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Rather than talking about or focusing more on the technologies and other aspects, what we should be focusing on, which anyway I would be covering, I personally felt that this slide is very important for all of us to know for the primary reason the work trends what we talk about, right? This is a report which was published by Gartner. So if we know what are the work trends follow which most of the organizations across the world are following, that gives a whole lot of insight into one, how we need to prepare ourselves for the role. Second, what kind of job opportunities can come up. So that's the reason I thought I'll put up this particular slide on which are the some of the key major trends where the whole I would say that the industry, the job industry is moving into. Next slide, please. Cool. I hope Imran, everybody's able to see the screen, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. So the most important trend, which we all of us know, is that there is a tremendous amount of increment in the remote work options. India as a country took a long while, unlike the West, to really cope up with this. So this pandemic, more like a blessing in disguise, has come in as a catalyst, which really pushed the whole industry to look at work from home as a long-term option. So if I have to give the example of my own organization, in the beginning of March, we decided that the one which is going to impact, it's not going, it's not small. So we as an organization with about 170,000 people across the globe, as we speak, I still have about 140,000 people working out of home for the last 4 months. So before pandemic, if I have to tell you, the remote working, the remote workforce was not more than 28 to 30%, globally speaking, and it was slightly lesser in India. And now, as we speak, we have about 68 to 70% of the people who are working out of their home office. So this is one of the biggest trend what we have witnessed as part of this trend. The second one is in terms of the data collection or the data collation. And this happened because of the first point. And when I say a data collection or the expansion of the same, this is basically about a lot of tools, platforms, and the methodologies, how the organizations are viewing data around employees. For example, when you have almost like maybe 70% or 80% of the employees working out of their home, right, or a home office, that comes with an additional ask for the organizations to one to monitor their the number of hours being spent in the system, right? Evaluate their performance and looking at the outcome, right? So all of these things are not very familiar with the Indian job industry, because of which we have a whole lot of data which the organizations are reviewing to ensure that just because somebody is not working out of their office premises, they still have to ensure that there is no dip in terms of the performance. So people like us, what's a message it tells us? Tomorrow, I might be working from home forever. But then I also need to be cognizant of the fact that organizations would be spending a whole lot of money, one, to ensure that I give my best, no matter which part of the world I'm sitting. And with the same hope, they also would invest in those products and tools to really evaluate, monitor on how I am able to give my best in the job which has been assigned to me. Another trend, growth of contract employment. Again, I would say not something which Indian job industry was not too very familiar with. Uh, the West has picked up this quite some time ago. But then in India also, today, some of the organization's leaders, what they're doing is, before pandemic, they had about say 20% of the people working on contract. That is, they are on the payroll of a different company and they are being deployed, or they would be working out of the respective ODCs. And as and when the contract is over, they move back to their payroll company. Today, as we speak, organizations are looking at expanding this talent base by about 50%, which means organizations would be looking at uh, a core talent share model. For example, just like how we have a lot of tools, right? You pay per usage, right? So companies are looking at evaluating a model where talent can be brought in. Maybe 80% of the talent can be brought in to do an 80% of the work which is needed, or the whole talent might be brought in for a specific fixed term, so that once that's done, okay, they kind of move on. So increment in the contract workforce, that's a phenomenal change, especially in a country like India, which we are witnessing. And the good thing, well, the message for people like us is that even if I kind of have an impact on my job today, right, I still have a lot of avenues where I can do a freelancing. I can partake some part of the work in 5 different organizations at any given point in time. So that's again a good news for people who are in the right set of technologies, which the industry is looking for. Moving on to number 4, viewing employer as an extension of the social safety net. And what does this mean? Uh, in the last few months, most of us must have witnessed some of the organizations have moved away from their core business to doing something which they were not an expert on. For example, one of the largest automobile manufacturing company, they decided to kind of come up with a few hundred thousands of masks for the people to wear during this pandemic. And we have seen a lot of similar examples wherein employers have come out of their comfort zone, come out of their core capability, and, and spend a lot of money and effort in terms of ensuring the betterment of society. So that's a key change, which people have seen when it comes to employers. Moving on to the separation of critical skills and roles, a very interesting point. Most of the time, all of you must have heard, right? When somebody must have asked in schools, what is that you would want to become when you grow up, right? Somebody must have told, I want to be a software engineer. Somebody else might have said a doctor or an engineer. But then today, it's not about the role. It's going to be about the skill. And if I have to give you an example, today I do not hire a project manager. I don't hire a program manager either. Rather, I hire an engineering manager with a specific technical background. which means when I'm looking at a project or a product, I look at the skills which are needed to build that product. I do not define that based on what role do I need for that product to be built. So earlier it was the critical roles which were defined by the organizations. Now it's the critical skills which are defined and work backwards to get the person who has that particular skill. Moving on to number 6, dehumanization of employees. Uh, if some of you have read this book, right, which Vineet Nayar from HCL has written, right, employees first, customer second, and this is an extension of that. Gone are the days wherein the workforce was treated as employees first and people second. Now that the whole landscape has changed. Today, organizations look at the talent or the workforce as people first, then employees. That's what dehumanization of employees is all about. Moving on to the emergence of new top tier employers. Again, this is again more of an extension of number 5, that is separation of, number 4, the social safety net which the employers are playing. Here, what the employers, or most of the time, the CEOs, the CXOs of the organizations, what they are doing is they come first when there is a crisis. It could be about the organization, it could be about the industry, it could be about a society like what we are going through right now. What they do is they come forward and play a lead role to ensure that the employees and the organizations are taken care of. As an example I can think of is there are cases every time you read, right? The CEO of an X organization decided that he or she is not going to take the salary for the next 12 months. Or one of the CXOs recently said that he would be taking $1 per month for the next 12 months. So you'd find a lot of these initiatives coming from the leadership or the executive leadership position, because they also realize that unless we have a strong society, the well-being of the employees, unless that's taken care of, then in the long run, organizations are not going to add any value at all. And they are not going to, so they are not going to survive or thrive. So you would find that a lot of top tier employers moving into this front-ending role. Moving on to the next one, transition from designing for efficiency versus resilience. In a simple term, this means earlier, when a role was created, the person who created the role would be looking at how efficient the person can become after he or she has been onboarded into the organization, right? But here, with the current pandemic, there's a different way of looking at it. What are they looking at? They are looking at how is that the employee is going to be so very resilient to the uncertainty, that he or she can still come back stronger and continue to deliver what is expected out of them. So that's where the mind shift has been from designing for efficiency to designing for resilience or uncertainty. And the last but not the least, because of all these factors, right, how the industry is moving into, there is a whole lot of complexity in the current organization. A simple example which we all can relate to. In India, we do not have a very strong policies or guidelines for the employees who are working on contract, for example, or the gig employees, what we call, right? People like the Swiggy delivery folks, or Zomato, or any of those, maybe the Uber cab drivers. A lot of the countries in the West, they already have a very strong policies and guidelines in place. But now organizations are looking at it. And with the current plan of having more people working on contract, people working from home, etc., Now you can expect a lot of new policies, guidelines, which would be covering this workforce as well. And tomorrow, you won't be surprised that you might have a person you report into, or somebody reporting into you, who are working out of a different country, and who doesn't even talk your language. So there would be a lot of tools and products which would help you navigate through this. But then all of this call for a very complex organizational structure. So what is the message for us as a candidate or as an employee? We need to be ready to work in this kind of a complex organizational structure, unlike how it used to be maybe a few months or a few years ago. Okay, can we move on to the next slide, please? Okay, so this is an interesting slide. If you ask me, again, this has been one of the topics in the last few days. There was this webinar, where in Bain and Company, one of the topmost consulting firms in the organizations, they looked at the CEO's perspective, where the technology companies are going into. And you would find a lot of similarities with the previous slide. But then I thought I'll have this slide for you to get a feeler that no matter which industry, which technology you look at, almost all of them are talking a very, very similar language. And if you look at, for example, on the left hand side, we have the employees, right? And WFH is nothing but the work from home and the employer support. And interesting, if you look at it, right, the whole model of I would say huge swanky IT parks, campuses, these things, may not be existing, maybe in the next few years from now, because of its the real estate and other the supporting ecosystem. You would not see them visibly in any of these organizations. But at the same time, it also asks for quite a lot of support to be extended to the employees. An example could be like, earlier, if somebody is working from home and uh, his or her kids come onto the screen, that's sort of something which is not welcoming by the organization. Or maybe your parents may be moving in the background, and these are the things which are not very welcoming in the professional organizational setup. But then today, that's perfectly fine. I myself can give you example wherein, while I meet my team and I talk to my people, sometimes maybe my daughter might be wanting to ask something, right? And I have no qualms in admitting the fact that I might just take a second and maybe answer her, and maybe get back to the presentation. Because today people realize that we've been forced to kind of work from home, and we do not have a very supporting ecosystem right now for that, because of which organizations are spending a lot to ensure that the well-being of the employees are taken care of. And that includes their parents, their children, taking care of their ITs, infrastructure, support system, etc. So that's something which you would find, as a trend, again, from an organization standpoint. At the same time, a few of the other aspects, right, like the cost takeout, which we spoke about, right, rather than looking at people to be on the roads all the time, the contract hiring model, talent co-sharing model, co-location, co-work location model. These are the things which you would find more rampantly as we move forward. I will not talk probably much about the disruption rate, or uh, uh, the transitions accelerator right now, because there's a separate slide for that. But just to give you an overview, these are some of the domains or the technologies where you would find a lot of demand, going forward. And which are those: the cloud computing, the edge computing, network, ORAN, analytics, BI of the world. Probably we'll talk a little bit in detail in the next slide. Then there are a few other aspects. For example, the supply chain, right? If you look at the IT experience where I come from, right? Most of the IT equipments or the components are predominantly based off of 5 countries. Now, if you look at the whole globe, and some of them are not in a very great relationship right now. For example, US and China. Then you have the Singapore, Taiwan, and a few other places. So companies are looking at how do they mitigate the risk. For example, if today one of the largest manufacturing organization on the IT side, they have about 80% dependency on China. And the strategy what they are looking at is they cannot cut off the relationship with them for various other reasons. So what they are doing is they are looking at spreading the risk and ensuring that from an 80%, how do they bring that to a 30% and explore countries like Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, etc. So there are a lot of global challenges which you would continue to see going forward, and all of them can have a direct or an indirect impact on our organization and the job what you and I would be doing. So it's always good to be aware of these things which are in our control and things which are not in our control, the trends where organizations are moving into, and all of them, if you are able to connect the dot really well, you would understand which are those areas which would ensure, inshallah, that you never run out of a job or an employment. So that takes us to the next slide. Imran, next slide, please. Okay, this is something funny. I thought I'll just put that up. People who are experienced in this forum, they can very well relate to it, right? 50 years ago, mainframe administrators, people working on the MVS, etc. Till about, I would say, mid 90s or late 90s. I remember, a lot of demand for people working on the mainframes. Then now we got to the world of the servers and PCs. Now on the client-server relationship with a lot of programming languages, new editions of them coming. Then the next decade, we saw the cloud and the whole cloud computing technologies. Then I would say the entry of the AI, MI of the world, and the next decade is going to be more to do with the cloud, the data mining, the deep learning, augmented reality, quite a lot of things. And you have again a cloud with the on-prem, quite a lot of options. IoT, telemetry. I mean, I can go on and on. But then the whole point is today. People who think that are doing a CCNA or CCNP, etc., or MCSE, a few of those courses, right? If you think doing that is going to guarantee a job on the networking side, definitely not. People who thought Oracle DBA certifications would land them in a good job, yes, it did in the past, but not any longer. And why I'm so very convinced about it is being a part of an organization, which enjoys a tremendous leadership position or in the competition, being the number one in both server and storage. In the last 5 years, I have not hired a single administrator. I have not hired a single network engineer. But at the same time, when it comes to the PC, server, storage, data protection, we are still a number one worldwide, which means there is quite a lot of AI of the world that has gone into the systems, which has replaced the jobs of an administrator or a networker. So the people we hire are the developers, are the software engineers making softwares, but on the devices. So uh, to put that in a simple sense, if you go to the technical skills, you would find that cloud and infrastructure is one of the hot skills, I would say, which the whole industry needs. And this does not limit only to the product organizations or the product engineering organizations. You think of any IT organizations, any technology organizations, they cannot think of anything outside of a cloud or an infrastructure. One, either as an offering or as an ecosystem, their products no, are built on. That's one, I would say, group of technologies which is definitely going to see a lot of demand for the next couple of years from now. Followed on with the cyber security, because today the number of devices, we talk about IoTs, right? Every person might be having maybe 3 or 4 devices, right? Maybe a laptop, a mobile, then probably the iPad or any other tablets. So there are quite a lot of data into it, and more data means more chances of somebody else misusing that. So because of which, security of the data, that's continued to be a key a demand area, which people can really explore in terms of taking up new certifications, understanding a lot of online classes, etc., on the cyber security aspect of it. And the data science again, earlier the data was used to do some analysis and come to a conclusion, but now the whole thing has changed. Now data is being collected to predict what's going to be the future, and build a case around it and build products for the future. So that's where a lot of analytical thinking and the crunching of data, that's going to be a big factor when it comes to employment. And last but not the least, we have the software development. And in the software development, again, uh, a back-end developer, front-end, full stack, these technologies are going to stay at least for the next few years from now. Somebody just working on one part of the development, that's not going to guarantee a job. uh, I don't know how many of you are aware of maybe a DevOps or maybe a pivotal way of working, which means today I might be joining as a tester in an IT organization. Earlier, my career is going to be like a test engineer, senior test engineer, then a test lead, then a test architect, and it goes on. But today, that's not how it's going to be. I might be spending maybe a year or two on the testing side, but then I would be paired with a developer, and we both would be working together. The whole model is called a pivotal model or a driver navigator. There are a lot of terminologies on that. So basically, what happens is I'm a developer and you are a tester, and both are needed for the project. So we sit together and work together. So the tester, that's you, would be working very closely with me most of the time in some of the organizations on one single machine. And they try to understand what is it I'm doing, and I would be sort of shadowing you on the development side. Similarly, I would be shadowing you as a tester in terms of identifying the bug, fixing them, and kind of or even writing the basic scripts and running the test cases, etc. So maybe 6 months fast forward it, I should be able to work as a tester if needed. I should be able to kind of find bugs on the product or on the program which I am developing. Similarly, a tester might be able to do some sort of a coding and be a part of the development organization. And that's the reason we moved away from a waterfall to an agile model. And in simple terms, what does that mean? Earlier, it was like I would develop a product, then send it to the testing team. They would test it, they find the bug, and they say, hey, you need to get that fixed. Then it again comes back to me. Again, I develop. Again, it goes back. That's called the waterfall model. But then today we have moved to a complete agile system, which means while I develop, I know the changes to be made, and no, I don't have to see 6 months down the line to see that products had a lot of bugs after it went live. So no, you would find that in the software development, people have to be ready for it in terms of which technology they need to get into, and what is going to be the ask at that point in time. People will have to be ready to do that unlearning or upscaling, however we call it. And all of these are on the technical side. But if you do not have some of the basic soft skills are really strong, uh, I have to tell you that your technical skills or our technical skills are not going to help us. And which are those soft skills? One, of course, is the leadership. Again, the whole definition of leadership, how I heard as a child, right, versus how I look at it now, it has changed a lot. Leadership is nothing but your ability to deliver or drive the message you want to convey, and ensure that people have heard it and got it right. That's the basic lesson when it comes to leadership. Not necessarily that you need to be in a lead position or a leadership position. No, not at all. Tomorrow I might be talking to one of the CXOs in my organization, and the person might be quite senior to me. But then my leadership capability is nothing but as a TA or a talent acquisition expert. I should be able to go as a consultant and say, for example, the business might be wanting to build a specific technical pool. I should be able to say, hey, you know what, your plan of wanting to build the product in this technology, that's okay. But you will have to change the location from Bangalore to Pune, because this is the talent pool, what we have versus what we see in Pune. On the top of it, certain technologies, you cannot expect one person doing that. You will have to break that into two, or you look at alternative technologies, who can work on it. So what I'm doing is I'm actually driving my message and ensuring that they have heard it. So that's something you need to keep in mind when it comes to leadership. Then the flexibility and adaptability we spoke about, right? Going forward, we do not know how things are going to be, which products or technologies might be in the sunset mode, right? Which are not going to exist any longer. So you need to be immediately be switching over to the technologies, one through your own initiatives and your own research, if not what the organization is asking you to get on to. So you need to be very flexible, very agile, and ready to pick up the challenges and ensure that you put in your effort to become really qualified for that role. Critical thinking. Gone are the days where a manager tells you something and you shake your head and you go back and start working on it, right? You have all the right to kind of go back and get your queries answered. Be very critical of yourself and the decision, and see. We used to say, right, putting yourself into the other man's shoes, right? So always be very critical. Ask questions. Why this? Why not this? Right? So we need to harness those critical thinking ability, and tech savvy. Alhamdulillah, we all are good in that. You give the phone to a kid today, he or she knows how to navigate, how to take the WhatsApp, how to make video call, how to do the TikToks, how to record the videos. They all are very good at that. So tech savvy is something which is inbuilt in most of us. If not, we need to ensure that we are always on top of the emerging technologies happening around within the product, within the society, among the network. Be very, very tech savvy, and all of these things can really work wonders if you have very strong communication and emotional intelligence. Communication is nothing but, again, it's not something which people believe that it's all about how well you are able to speak in a specific language. That's not about communication. That's I would say that's your language proficiency. You must have seen, right? Most of you who are in Bangalore, if you go to a brigade or an MG road, right, you would find some of those kids maybe who never went to the school might be speaking in a very good English, asking you whether you would want to pick up some stuff from them, right? So communication is not about talking great in a specific language. Communication is all about how you are able to pass on the message, which I mentioned in the under leadership, right? How strong you are able to convey a message, right? With a lot of conviction and confidence. That's what communication is all about. Emotional intelligence is more about empathy. While you might be having all of these skills, there could be people in the same team or maybe around you or maybe in your family who may not be really good at it. So you need to have that kind of an empathy and give a thought for yourself. What is that I can do to ensure that maybe I pass on my abilities, or I nurture the person and get the person to the speed of what industry is looking for. That's what emotional intelligence is all about. And the last one is about the creativity and innovation. This applies all the soft skills, if you ask me. This applies to any role you think of, not even a role. It applies to every single individual, be it in terms of our personal, professional, spiritual lives, what we have. All of these things are very important. And if you go back to probably our ancestors' books, right? Maybe from the holy books or wherever, you would find all of these factors, which have been blended so very nicely, with the so-called the messengers and the holy, people. They had almost all of them in a different level. So these soft skills are the one which are going to take us to a long way when it comes to being successful in our job. Moving on to the next slide. Okay, so we've come to the end of the session, and I thought we will keep it open for people if they have any questions on any of the slides, any of the pointers they spoke about. More than happy to take them, and inshallah, I'll try my best to answer them to the best.
Jazakallah, Ajmal Bhai, Imran Bhai, for this very informative session. So, just to know, what is the scope or market for those who are new in industry, who are just passed out, the freshers? How is the scope for them these days?
Okay, so the good news is that most of the organizations, they have not gone back, or they have not reduced the number of hires they are planning to do from the campus. That's a good news. At the same at the same time, there is a definite cut down on the number of people they want to hire with experience. So people who have still not started their career, it's still a great time to be in, provided they are able to really connect themselves to what the industry is looking for. Today, I might be a commerce graduate. I might be a computer engineer. I might be a mechanical engineer. When I go for an interview, and if I don't understand what they are looking for, and I go on talking about myself, sorry, I'm not the right person for that role. That's a reason. And again, as a part of the HR group, I can tell you, today, if any of the HR asks, right, what's your aspiration? What do you want to do 2 years, 5 years down the line? That's an outdated question today, because people are not really bothered about that. People are trying to understand what's your aspiration in terms of the technology, right? So if I say, for example, if I say that I'm a computer engineer, or I'm a commerce graduate, right? And when they ask, what is that you want to become? The English of the question or the terminologies haven't changed much. But then earlier, it was more to understand your career plan. But today, the same question is being asked at you and me. What they are trying to understand is that how is that you are connected to the industry and believe that you know how you have planned your career in line with the industry trend. So if somebody says that, I'm an individual, for example, that who would want to work along with the team and give my best in a work from home kind of a model, I'm not the right fit for that role. So the point here is people who are yet to start the career, being very clear in terms of what's the business what's the industry trend today, and what is that they are trying to understand. Are they checking? Am I keeping track of what's happening in the industry? Because I don't have experience to show, right? So I have to say that yes, I come from this background, and my interest in so and so, because this is what's happening in the industry. So you talk a lot of data, a lot of the industry trends. You talk about what is that the technology as such is going through. If you are able to connect those dots, that's what they are looking for. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Ajmal.
Yeah, I think I can probably ask one question which might be relevant for rest of the audiences here, and especially freshers and new job aspirants. Uh, a lot of time, we all know that job searching, especially for freshers, if they don't come from tier one colleges, it becomes very difficult, and most of the time, time consuming. It even takes a year or 2 years for them to get into a job. What exactly they're supposed to do in that meantime, so that the 2 years doesn't come completely as a blank slate or gap when they sit or probably go for any interviews, because they struggle balancing that gap in terms of any stint. It could be an internship or maybe some learning or certification. So some guidance on those lines. How do we utilize those waiting time that we have while we are searching for jobs? What exactly we can do back at home in any form or shape to minimize that impact of that gap when you go for any interview?
Sure. So if I have understood the question clearly, Imran, the ask is some of us might be having some gap after our graduation or after our studies before we started the career, right? Or there could be gaps between changing organizations. So how do we kind of talk about that, in an interview, right?
Talk at the same time what exactly we can do to kind of make that gap look more on the advantage side to us, that yeah, although I was not working but I was doing xyz to make sure I'm not sitting idle back at home. So that kind of guidance.
Sure. So we can look at it in two aspects. One, it's not that we can be right all the time when we take certain decisions, right? Because of which we might have had some gap. So one way of looking at is what is the learning, or by taking a decision which was not the right one, which we realize a later point in time. For example, somebody might have a lost job because they were working on a technology which was not needed for the organizations, at that point in time, because of which the job got impacted, and then they moved out and they did not have any other job for 6 months because they did not know any other technology at that point in time. Then they must have done some course and managed to kind of get back to career. For those people, the best way to take that question is, one, what really convinced them about having a confidence that their job will not be impacted, and what really happened. And most importantly, they have to talk about the learning experience what they had. In this case, if I'm that individual, I would say that I worked on this technology, and I felt that that's going to stay in the industry for long, because of which I did not see the big picture that this is diminishing and there are a lot of other parallel technologies which are catching up. I failed to realize that. And I realized it by the time it was too late and it really impacted my job. So my learning is today I know any technology for that matter doesn't have a shelf life of more than 18 months. Because of which this is what I have started doing. And now if I look at some of these reports, some of these findings, I see that these are some of the skills I need to be upskilling myself. And these are some of the non-technical things which I need to be aware of, which I have started working on. And if I'm able to take some examples, maybe from my day-to-day life or maybe from the current company I'm working with, then it gives a confidence to the new employer that yes, things went wrong with me because of maybe my fault or maybe because of organization fault, but today I'm in a much better position to foresee what's going to happen, and I'm really preparing myself to work in that uncertainty. So that's how we need to handle that question.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, I would like to add something to the question what has been asked.
I'm sorry. There was some challenge with the audio. Can maybe somebody help me understand the question,
Yes.
please?
Yes. So I would just like to add a question what was asked regarding the freshers. So what I would suggest when the freshers they don't have, they can work on some build a social activity like social app or something which they can show on a resume, and they can be part of several blogs because when you doing some technical interview, that whoever the SME, he will be knowing very popular bloggers on that particular subject. So you should name them and you should be very active on those particular blogs, helping the solution. You have to be part of those blogs, providing solution, and just list down those things that have been very active members and this many problems have been solved. So like that you can add when you are the freshers, can add to your resumes or in a discussion with your technical.
I'm sorry, but I'm not sure if I've got the point clearly because there was a bit of challenge on the
So,
audio.
Brother Ajmal, if you are able to hear me clearly, this is Imran. So I think brother was trying to add further to what you just suggested to these freshers or people those who are waiting while they are searching for job. The suggestion was to spend some time on some social blog profiles or any tech hub where you can suggest some solutions, problem statement fixing, and then those can be kind of explained that you're doing while you are kind of searching for jobs simultaneously. So just keep yourself active more from learning as well as knowledge sharing point of view is what I think what brother was trying to kind of add to what you just explained to us.
That's what I was telling. So that they can, like we have seen some of them, they have created some of the social apps like Asif Dange and he has created several. So like this social app, Happy Marriage, and for several, they can create their own website where they can utilize whatever knowledge they have learned, their expertise. So that's how they can build that expertise. Those freshers can use that thing. Apart from that, they can several blogs, like in case of Oracle, like Tom the blog is there, and several well-known bloggers. So they can spend time and they be active, see what are problems people are reporting, what solution. You also try to give the solutions. And when you are in front of the interviewer, list down the name of the specific blogs, well-known blogs on that particular topic. So there you can score some points over there, and you can tell them that you have resolved so many technical issues on that particular blogs, and create your own blogs.
Yep, got that's a very valid point. Thank you for bringing that up, brother. Maybe just to add to it, a bit like on the technology side, there are a lot of avenues and forums like maybe Stack Overflow, for example, right, where you can really showcase your capability. You can solve live problems. You can sort of store your work. You can participate in different hackathons which are happening. So it's always important to know that, one, in terms of learning, and second, in terms of imparting skills. So again, coming back to the main point of ensuring that when we talk to people as part of the interview process, be very, very transparent, because the whole HR system is so very robust and comprehensive today that they can really figure out, is a person really genuine about what he or she is talking about, their attitude. There are a lot of products, tools available in the industry today. So my request is, be very, very genuine while giving interviews, and do a lot of homework in terms of what is asked from the role, rather than trying to portray what you are all about. Great, Imran, Tosif, I guess we are on time. Do we have any more questions? Maybe the last one.
Assalamu alaikum, Ajmal bhai. So, just your thoughts on how the concept of virtual teams might work in the near future. Say, everyone gets connected from home. Say they do their office work and they have extra time. So, the sales team might get the projects and the architects might do their work similarly down the line. So the concept of virtual teams, wherein people can slowly come out of the financial dependency on their jobs and can make a lump sum of money with their spare time what they have on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. The concept of virtual teams, which came on thought because of the pandemic situation. So, you have any thoughts on this? Like, any companies are thinking of this kind of stuff? Or
Sure, this is a good question, Yusuf. So if you ask me, the work from home model, the current pandemic actually worked as a catalyst. We would have thought about it maybe a few years down the line, but then the whole the time journey has been crunched, and pushed us to get into this work from home model with hardly any option. So the things what people are doing right now is, one, ensuring that the personal life is not lost, because you are working from home, and it's not that everyone will have a dedicated home office, right? So what people are doing is, they are looking at employee engagement as a key aspect, and as a part of which there are certain schedules which are being discussed. For example, there was this APJ leader, one of the presidents of our organization. He ensures that he has a good one and a half hour break for lunch every day from Monday to Friday, and that's the time for himself. I have another vice president who ensures that 4:30 to 5:30, that's his time for the gardening part, and there is no compromise to it. So all the office related work, the schedule is accommodated along with the personal schedule, which means the individual working from home, they need to have a clear demarcation in terms of the time schedule, that, okay, this is the time I'm going to start my day with, this is the time I'm going to take a break. Just because I'm at home, I cannot decide that, okay, fine, now it's 12:30 and I don't have a call right now. Let me have my lunch quickly and come back. No, I need to kind of really have that demarcation in terms of my timing. I need to start looking at nurturing or building some hobbies for myself. Because today, as I said, right, we Indians are too early to kind of really get into this model, but we have no option. So what we have to do is, we need to figure out, how do I do that? Maybe a switch on or a switch off mode, right? Be in terms of doing my stretch, be in terms of talking to my team members. Just because all are working from home, that doesn't mean that I can call up my team member maybe at 8 in the morning. No, no, that's their time. So we need to sit together with the team, with our family. We need to figure out, what is the best workable model in terms of my timing, in terms of my workplace, etc. We need to do a lot of planning around all of these aspects, which we never thought of earlier. Does that answer your question, Yusuf?
Yes, most of the part of the question has been answered. Like, any thoughts on the virtual team model? So what you have
So
said
you,
is with respect to a company. I'm asking about the virtual team model, kind of a freelancing stuff where virtual teams get built, and uh, the resource or the work gets shared among those people, and they do it on their understanding basis.
Yes. So if your question is on taking up the freelancing or multiple works with the different companies at the same time, I would say this is the best time for that. Because today, the organizations, as I mentioned, right, the co-talent sharing model, right, an organization A might be needing maybe 20% of my time or my talent, and the organization might be needing 40% percentage of that. So today, when I'm working from home, one today, most of my clients or customers are quite comfortable with the fact that the work can be done no matter where I'm sitting. So unlike how they would have thought twice before giving a job to a freelancer. The second thing is even the customers, right? They are also looking at doing the work from home option. They understand the challenges what anybody would go through. So they are going to be more accommodative when it comes to some of the basic technical challenges which might come into the way of working. So to answer your question, this is a great time for people who are in the right technologies and in the right place with the talent. This is a great opportunity for them to really look at this freelancing or the contracting or the part-time or the co-talent sharing model in India. I would say they cannot be asking for a time better than this.
Thank you.
I guess we would call it a day, Imran and Tausif. Probably, you have my personal ID as well. People who still have questions, I'm more than happy to kind of take them offline. And would like to thank Imran, Tausif, and the whole team for giving me this opportunity. And I would like to wish you all the very best. Thanks so much.
Jazakallah, Ajmal bhai.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Jazakallah everyone for organizing this, and thanks for participation. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.